Hey, welcome to Outsmart Your Guitar. Glad you could join us. Today, in this edition of Soloing Concepts, we're in part 2 on how to build a solo. This series basically is walking you through the processes that I employ to put solos together. So let's just get right to it. And be sure to like and subscribe to Outsmart Your Guitar along the way. Let's go. For this second lesson, we're changing the progression because when you change the style, and even within a given style, change the tempo from more up tempo to now slower tempo, your approach to how you want to put things together also changes. So the way you apply the tools is a little different. So we have an E minor here, right? And then a C. Now you'll notice on the and of 4, we have a C over B. So there's a couple of ways you can do this. You can simplify it by just playing with your second finger on the 5th string at the 2nd fret. There's your B. Play that. Or you can swap your 2nd and 3rd fingers like this and keep this much of the C and add that. So you go on your way to the A minor. It's up to you. I tend to, now another way you can do it is just play that one note if you want. So like that, letting the rest of the chord ring out, play the one note, and then move to the A minor. It's up to you. And then you have G and D to round it out. Now this progression is a slow tempo progression. It's at 66 beats a minute. That's what I recorded into my looper at. So the steady state principle comes into play here, playing 16ths, 1 E and 2 E and and so forth. So we're playing to the 16th. We're strumming to the 16th. And how that works here, slowed way down so you can understand it better. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and Now the second measure is a little different. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1. So the 3rd and the 4th measure strum pattern is the same as the 1st measure strum pattern. All right? So now at 66 beats a minute, it's going to sound like this. And so forth. All right? So what I want you to do is pause the video, and if you need to rewind and watch and listen to the demonstration of the strum pattern, go ahead and do that, and then pause, work it out, get it smoothed out, and then put it to a metronome at a tempo you can actually play it. If it's not up to 66 beats a minute, that's okay. Remember, this is for everybody, and no matter what level you're at, you can gain a lot of knowledge in this lesson and in this series, all right? So we always focus on working out rhythm parts because it's 90% of your playing. So make sure you pause, focus on quality of execution. Then, once you've got it down, record it into your looper, as I did. And have it ready to go when we get into the next part. And when you're ready for that next part, after doing all of that, press play. Now that you have your progression recorded into your looper, it's time to play something over the top of it. Now we know the first chord of the progression is E minor, and that just so happens to also be the key chord, or the 1 chord of the progression. So that tells us our key. Our key is E. And so, since it's minor, we know that pentatonic minor is the scale that we'll start with. And that's in the key of E. So you have the whole neck open to you as a result, if you know all 5 positions of the scale. And let this be a reminder to you of the importance of, say, for example, the pentatonic minor scale, knowing all 5 positions of the scale so that whatever key you happen to be playing in, you will be familiar enough to be able to find all 5 positions of the scale in that key, and so opening up most of the neck to being able to play wherever you want, because the notes of the scale, no matter the key, are all over the fretboard. So the first thing you do, again, just play. 2, 3, 4. Just play. Get comfortable with it, have fun with it. Spend, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes just doing your thing, getting comfortable with the progression and the potentials that it holds. Then after you've done this for 10, 15 minutes, go ahead and restart the video and we'll move to the next part of the process. All right, it's time to come up with something to start the solo. You've gone through and improvised some ideas, so I'm gonna just kind of start out here. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to start playing on the 3rd beat instead of the 1st beat of the 1st measure over the E minor, because I want that silence there to create a little bit of a tension, a little expectation. All right, so here we go. Okay, so there it is. Now, can I repeat it? 2. Okay, good. So now I have something to start. Now let's look at another part. Now you can hum or you can continue to build the excitement, which means you don't want to hum because you want to get it a little busier. So if that's the case, humming isn't the solution here, right? So now the next thing doesn't start on the 3rd beat, it starts on the 1st beat of the progression. Oops, did I say that? Okay, there's my 2nd lick. So let's see how they work together. pretty cool. And then it just continues from there. You can continue to heighten the excitement, or you can now dial it back a tiny bit. And what that's called is tension release. So before I get into that, what I want you to do is pause the video and come up with the first two bits, the first two times through the progression, your intro and then your secondary lick. All right? Then, when you're ready to continue, press play. All right, you got your first two licks and you're ready to keep going. But I want to pause here for a moment and talk about this tension release thing I mentioned a moment back. Tension and release is a device used in music and elsewhere to help heighten the excitement and also give some satisfying feeling to it, right? So for example, in a pop tune, you get tension during the verses and maybe a bridge. When you hit the chorus, that's the release, because it's usually something that everybody sings and you know it and it just kind of goes through your head and it's a feel-good moment, right? And that's the whole idea. Tension is like, ooh, and release is, the feel-good moment. So the things leading up to that feel-good moment are considered tension. Then the chorus, for example here, is the release, the feel-good moment. And then you go back to the verses and create some more tension and get back to the chorus again, getting the release. Now in a solo, it's not any different. For example, the solo sections I did here just a moment ago, I started by delaying entering into the solo for 2 beats. That creates anticipation, which itself is a kind of tension. Then I started playing, setting the mood. It wasn't happy, it was a little unsettled, so that too helps create a little bit of tension. Then the second lick I started playing actually was busier, and so creating more tension. When you get busier, you're actually creating more tension. Now, for the third lick, I could continue by creating even more tension by making it even busier sounding. And then after that third lick, I could dial back and slow down and enter into some slower sounding licks, which pulls back from the tension, which in itself is a kind of release, the moment, right? So I just wanted to kind of explain what tension and release sounds like by way of example using a pop tune, and how developing a solo can use tension and release to give you kind of that heightened sense, and then you pull back a little bit, all right? So listen to some solos that you really like, and you'll start hearing that tension and release thing going on in them as well, all right? So let's just keep going. I just want to pop in here for a minute to remind you, down in the description, you'll see a link to patreon.com/outsmart your guitar. Go on over there, become a patron by subscribing, and in so doing, you unlock a lot of lessons that are not contained here, expanded versions of some of the lessons that are contained here, and you'll have access to all the written material for all the lessons. Sound good? All right, let's get back to it. All right, I want to talk about something I alluded to in part 1, and that is that you can change the order of your licks around so that you put them in a different place. You're not changing the licks themselves, you're changing the order in which you play them. So put your solo together and then start playing around with the order of the licks. You might find that a certain lick sounds better earlier or later in the solo than where you have it. So for example, I've got the first 2 licks of this solo down from before. I'm going to put lick 2 first and put lick 1 second. All right, here we go. 3, 4. actually sounds pretty good. I come out of the gate with some tension, and then right immediately after that, I bring it down with a little bit of silence for 2 beats, which creates anticipation, just like at the beginning of the solo, having those 2 beats of silence creates anticipation. So that anticipation remains here. What is he going to do next? Before I begin the mellower lick. So I'm actually removing a little bit of tension at the same time as creating anticipation. And that's what I mean. Try reordering the licks once you've got your solo worked out. Say, I said a minute, 4 times through the progression, maybe 5. That's around a minute, right? And put it together, play it, get it down, and then start putting the licks in different order. Don't change the individual licks, just start putting it together. Remember, you're dealing thematically. It's not note for note perfect. As you just heard, I didn't play note for note perfect what I did, but I did play thematically the same thing. And that's the idea, so that you are staying in the ballpark with each lick. You know what each lick more or less should be. And swap them around. You may just find changing even just a couple of licks around creates a better solo, and that's the whole idea, to create the best solo possible. And that may mean moving licks around, right? So give that a try after you put all your licks together and see what you come up with. And when you're ready to move forward, press play. One last thing I want to talk about here is continuity. Continuity is an important element in storytelling, and you can also use it as an important element in writing solos. Basically, continuity is like a glue that creates cohesion from the various parts of the solo, or within the various parts of the solo. You can do this by using a repeated lick. So I've created a repeated lick that I'm going to play, and I'm actually going to start the solo with the lick. And then I'm going to echo that lick, either literally or suggesting it with variations on it, so that it doesn't get beaten to death, to show you how you can create cohesion by dropping a lick in multiple places, giving an overarching thematic cohesion, and so continuity to the solo. All right, here we go. 3, 4. So you could hear the lick being dropped in and even slight variations of it to give a sense of cohesion, that this is a unified whole. All right? So go ahead and pause the video and give this a try. Just by improvising some ideas. Create a lick that you want to repeat and get that lick memorized, and find it in more than one place. I had it here, 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 and I was even ready here if I wanted to use it there. So I knew where it was in at least 4 different places on the fretboard, so that if I wanted to use it, if I found myself in a place where, oh, it'd sound good to drop it in here, I could do that. And you even heard me go, right? So suggest it, but not finish it. And that is the whole idea. So go ahead, pause, and go ahead and give this a shot. create a lick that is repeatable, and then drop it in various places and see how that kind of creates a greater thematic whole. Now, your individual licks are thematic in the sense that you can play them more or less the same every time. This continuity thing is with regard to the whole solo, the solo as a greater whole. It's not about individual licks. It's about having some continuity by using a given lick or variations of it to help bring cohesion to the greater whole. I hope that made sense. All right, so go ahead and give that a shot. Improvise stuff, create your lick, play it over there, and really give it a workout and get a sense of what it means to drop a lick like this in. Okay? Then, when you're ready to continue, you know what to do. All right, there you go. Some more things to add into your toolbox for you to understand and start applying. Use these things, actually use them, put them to work for you. This is what you want. This is what you need, right? So have fun with it. Remember, 4 times, 5 times through the progression, don't tax yourself. Learn to do this in smaller ways so that when you do have a longer solo, you will have a greater understanding of how to pace yourself. Something else I'll be talking about down the road here. All right? Have fun, like I said. Enjoy the process. Put all these things to work and make it happen. And remember, the order in which you come up with the licks isn't always the order they should be played. I've written songs and written out lyrics, and the verses didn't make sense in the order I wrote them. But when I started shifting them around, it started to make more sense as I put the verses in the right order so that it now had a more linear, continuity-based flow. And that's what you want, and that's another aspect of continuity. The flow has to make sense. Okay? All right, that'll do for this one. Thank you so much for letting me be your teacher, and we'll see you in the next lesson.